There we go. And 3. And we are live. Welcome. Hello, Facebook. We join you again today. It is Thursday for our virtual open house, and we are truly virtual today. Next week, we'll be back in the college, and I'm going to be putting out posts where we will be looking for people to come and get a free treatment. And so if you would like to be showcased, if you would like a free treatment, you have to be showcased on our next virtual open house so that we can show people what naprapathic medicine is about. We only need the first 10 minutes and then the rest of your time you have to yourself. What I would like to do tonight is to welcome the president of the Illinois Naprapathic Association, Dr. Rapacz. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please introduce yourself to our viewers tonight.
Hello, my name is Dr. Ted Rapacz. I'm president of the Illinois Naprapathic Association. And I've been in practice for over 40 years. And as such, if you would have told me 40 years ago that I'd still be on the Illinois Naprapathic Association, I would say you're nuts. But no, I'm still here and still working.
Great. And so what we want people to know, what the goal of these virtual open houses, and we want to feature as many naprapaths as possible, because as we come across people that say, oh my God, I didn't know anything about this profession, we want people to know that there are people who are naprapaths. And that is one of the purposes. Last week, we had the president of the American Naprapathic Association here, and then we featured you on for today. And these are the associations or the professional associations once you graduate and become licensed that you gain membership into, and you'll be working with the individuals of the associations. So we want the college to always be a continued bridge to the professional associations so that our students and our recent graduates have a way to connect to the naprapaths that are basically all over the country. Most of them have migrated from Illinois, and they practice in places like California or Florida, Michigan even, and I'm sure you know some other things. So, tell us a little bit about, naprapathy. I'm a more of a recent graduate, so my story is very limited to the past 10 years, but you guys come with a wealth of information for the viewers. And so things as far as our founder and the history of the colleges, I think will be something that'll be very good for people to know about the rich history that we have in naprapathy.
Well, and years ago, the founder, Oakley Smith, when he was doing a lot of this stuff, doing all the research and doing all the work for naprapathy, he felt that everybody should do this. So he was basically gearing the teaching so that everybody could do it, and spouses could treat each other. But that was back in the 20s and 30s. And as science dictates, as things get more involved and knowledge increases, that was no longer something that was viable. So as the colleges have over the years tried to expand, and they taught more sciences, they taught more the chemistry and the biology and the physiology. And then as far as the techniques expanded too. Most people, years ago, most people thought the only thing that a naprapath would treat would be a back problem, low back. But yes, we treat low back, we treat neck problems, we treat mid back, shoulder problems, foot problems, hand problems. I mean, any kind of joint abnormalities. The one great thing as far as for people that are practicing today as naprapaths is in today's healthcare system is such that, the way it's evolved, you're kind of under the thumb that you have to pump out. I hate to use that term, but you might have to see 4, 5, 6 people every half hour, depending on what you're doing. And the great thing in our field is you have the time, the ability to assess a patient, to work the way you want to. And that's the one thing that over the years, as far as with the different manipulations and different techniques through the associations, people would come and they'd learn different techniques. Anybody who's been in the field for any kind of time will tell you, you're always learning. You're always learning a different way of doing things, a different technique. And through the associations, that's a lot of times what we're trying to do, expand what works for you. Someone like myself who might be a little bigger can do some things where someone who's smaller can't. And as far as, our treatments, as far as how, people are working, everybody has to kind of mold that treatment into what is comfortable for them and how they can treat patients. I don't know if I answered that correctly, but I'm like the politicians. I can go on and on and on and on.
There are no right or wrong answers, trust me. So how did you come across the field of naprapathy?
I was working at a hospital and I was going to go to med school. And, one of the things that really changed for me, anybody who's worked in a hospital, you see, the personal lives of a lot of doctors, it's a very rough field. I mean, a lot of their personal lives are very chaotic. Everybody talks about, oh, medical doctors, they make money, but a lot of their personal lives are in shambles. I mean, almost all my friends that are medical doctors are divorced or they're running around and, they're a little chaotic. So although I wanted to stay in the field, I wanted to do something to work with people. And I had hurt myself, and there was a naprapath that was local that my dad had seen. And I talked with him. I went down to the college. There was an old naprapath named Dr. Roland Sindney, who, would teach everybody stuff. And, he did some stuff that was quite amazing. And then when you start to see all the stuff you can do, you control your own destiny. It was actually a no-brainer for me. So that, that's why I went into it, because I could still help people. And at the same time, I could do it the way I wanted to. I didn't have to treat, the way someone says, you got to do it this way or that way. One of the great things in our field is you have so much time to talk with people. So over the years, you become friends with your patients. I mean, you have time. So you really get to know people. You really get to have a personal involvement, which is very nice. I mean, at the end of the day, when you go home, you can feel like you've accomplished something. Not only did you help them get better, but the same way they've touched your life and you touched their life. And, especially in the times of today with COVID, so many people are scared. So many people are nervous. And, if you can be a calming effect on people or kind of work with people, it's a win-win situation for everyone. So, when I was working, years ago, first starting out, I had a lot of old timers that would help out. And, through the associations, we'd learn different techniques, and some I still use, some I've changed, some I've modified. But over the years, I work with medical doctors, I work with osteopaths, I work with chiropractors. It's not something that, like if there's something that comes in and let's say it's a really bad herniated disc, I'm not going to, I'm going to be honest with someone, and if they're in a lot of pain, they might have to get an injection for their spine. They might need surgery. I don't try to tell people that, oh, we can fix everything. So you work with the healthcare professionals, and in the process, they refer patients back to me, and I refer patients back to them. So it really does help as far as getting to work with other healthcare practitioners also.
Yeah, I was saying that before, and I say it over and over that naprapathic medicine is truly a complementary medicine. It's not
Yes.
That's an alternative to anything else. It
Right.
works in conjunction with everything. And
Exactly.
that was very attractive even to me, that I noticed how naprapaths, and most people may have been treated by naprapaths and didn't know that they were a naprapath. They were just in another office with other
Right.
practitioners, and they treated them physically, of course. And they just say, oh, this massage therapist or some other physical medicine practitioner, without really knowing the title of the person
Right.
that they were working with. So I think that might have been a lot of people's stories as well.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, people appreciate that because we're not trying to, it's not like we're snake oil salesmen. I mean, we have limitations, and, there's so many things that we can help. I always tell people, when I'm working with them, you'll know in a few visits whether we're on target or that, and if it's not, then, like I'll refer to other healthcare professionals. And that just, when patients realize that, they feel a lot more comfortable too. So they don't think that you're, just going to have them come forever. And most of my patients, I tell them, don't worry, I run out of stories to tell you after about 4 or 5 visits. So I better get you done in 5, 6 visits. Otherwise I have to repeat the stories.
Yeah, so that I know for me it was an injury. So that was actually very interesting because most of the people that have joined the field of naprapathy, they were attracted to it because maybe they became injured themselves or they had some type of pain somewhere and then they entered the field. So it was really refreshing to hear a different take or a different story.
Well, and I will say I've had fibromyalgia since I was like 12. But my parents always said I was a hypochondriac. I just told them I had pain. But as someone who's had a lot of pain, it helps me in my field to working with people because I can understand that. But it really, the big thing was when you see the things that you can do, and the enjoyment that you can get. And I always tell people one of the great things in this field is every day something's different. It's not like the same thing over and over. Every day you go to work. If I'm in a mood, you go to work and you leave after you've seen your patients in a good mood because you're seeing so many different people and so from so many different walks of life that you really afterwards you can't help but feel a little better. Unless of course you get some really crabby patient who's
I don't know that I've ever experienced that. And of course, I don't have the years under my belt as most of you all do, but
I don't allow my patients to be crabby. I yell at them. I say, "Oh, we're not taking that." But I tease my patients a lot.
yeah, but I mean, in most cases, they come in and they know that you're going to do something that is going to make them better. So the belief factor is there. So they come in a different energy and a different spirit anyway. Maybe that first visit when they don't really know what you're about to do to them, but after the first visit, second visit, they just plop on the table. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. Gaining trust, and I think that's the one thing. And this isn't a knock against any profession, but we don't snap. We're not cracking hard. We don't do those type of manipulations. So once people feel comfortable that uh, they let you, they start to work with you, and they're agreeable to what you're working with. And as I always tell my patients, and pretty much everybody does, we work with their pain tolerance. So in other words, if someone's like, "Oh, that really hurts," it's not like you say, "Well, just deal with it." We don't do stuff like that. I think the one thing a lot of times people don't know what an naprapath is, and they hear manipulation, they'll say, "Well, what is manipulation?" I said that's a hard thing to say. You can say you're gentle, or you do stretching, or you do range of motion type of manipulations. But until someone feels it and they realize what you're doing, then they'll relax and feel more comfortable with the treatment.
Yes, I agree. I mean, there's no substitute to having a treatment. And you'll know if you've ever had you've ever been treated by a naprapath when
Oh
you
yeah,
get to the table, that you will know. So when you and I like how, and I say this too, I like to create this culture within the college now. We're not here to necessarily speak on what other physical medicine practitioners do. We're only here to speak on what we do, put the emphasis on what it is that we do and how do we show any type of comparisons. Well, the best comparison, everyone, is to actually get a treatment, and then you can determine that yourself. Hey, the naprapath did X, Y, and Z. This person did A, B, C, and you can come up with what works best for you and whatever your outcome is, whatever the desired health outcome that you want based on. I think just getting the treatment is the best way for you to determine what is the difference between this naprapath, not to be confused with naturopath, people.
right.
Naprapath with a P for pain relief.
That's
So yeah, people, I say, "Oh, I'm a naprapath." "Oh yeah, I know where that college is." "I'm in Chicago."
right. Right.
So
You know,
that was one of the things that
and that's the great thing about the college is that they're able to teach in such a way that to show the people as far as different techniques. And I know you have other doctors that come in and naprapaths and showing different techniques and things like that. And it's a great way to learn. Yeah. I always said the one of my friends is a surgeon, one of my patients, and he said, there was like 5 different surgeons who taught him technique. He says, but he doesn't use any of their technique. He used a little bit from everybody and formed his own technique. And now when he teaches his residents his technique, he says, they don't use my technique either. They formed theirs. But everybody who touches you kind of helps you along that path of
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I think that from along the way, I understand it. And, and that's what's made it very challenging as the college's president now, trying to standardize the education so that
Yes.
across the board, wherever you are, you're learning the same thing. But that's what's so unique, because when the technique part comes into play, of course, we want to have standard treatments or,
Right.
things that we're doing, but it's going to feel different from person to person and hand to hand as far as what that approach is.
Definitely.
That, that we probably won't be able to do anything about, but I'm really excited about the innovation and coming up with more techniques and evolving in the profession and building upon what Oakley Smith did,
Oh, definitely.
especially with the transition from the chiropractic to developing naprapathy, the connective tissue specialty.
Well, I think that's so true. And the other thing you see is a lot of people, they treat the way they want to be treated. So some people might have a heavier touch, a lighter touch. Some people might do more exercise. Some people might do, because we also do exercise therapies for people. And so it just depends, a lot of practitioners, they, over the years, I've found they treat the way they want to be treated. So that's but that's just part of the learning process and the growing process too.
That is
Yeah.
true. I remember one time I had gotten a massage and I noticed the pressure I was like, oh, this is a little too hard. And so to your point, that person, as they're administering it, probably they like to receive it in the way that they're giving it, thinking that, hey, if that feels good to me, then,
Exactly.
and one of the things I like to do is I ask people, is this pressure enough? And I try to tailor to what the person is saying. If they're all right with that pressure, or I'll go a little bit more to see where they are, where they're comfortable with as far as, that goes. I don't necessarily, because then you get the resistance. If it's too much, that person isn't going to relax, and now their muscles are going to stiffen up, and then you're not going to be able to do what you need to do
No
because,
question.
yeah. So,
Yeah, that's so,
yeah.
I mean, and that's one of the things that I know we were taught is, you have to kind of adjust yourself to whatever pressure the patient can tolerate. And, I always tell my patients, I says, you don't have to bite a bullet. If you're sore, we'll work around it. And like you said, and that's something when you get a treatment and you realize what's going on, you're part of the process, because you can say, oh, that's too much. That's, I needed a little bit more on the other shoulder, or I have a real sore spot. There's a lot of referred pain that can happen. If you have a hip, it might be coming from the shoulder area where it's, being pulled up. I mean, there's lots of different things that you'll feel. And people are, as you're asking, that's the whole process of figuring out exactly what the treatment plan will be.
Yeah, well, everyone, we are connective tissue specialists. I know you're figuring, what is that? You will have to go to our website and enroll in our program to find out, or come get a treatment. We are located at 3330 North Milwaukee. I certainly thank you, Dr. Rapacz, for joining us this evening on our virtual open house. For the prospective students out there that's looking for a career and they're on the fence, what do you have to say to them before we go?
Listen, I've been doing this 40 years. You know what? You control your own destiny. You get to help people every day. And I will tell you, you'll make lots of great acquaintances in your life. I can't tell you how many different people I have. I have friends in all walks of life because of this field.
Well, we thank you for your time this evening. Don't forget to visit us at www.napmed.edu. You can find us on all social media platforms. I'm sorry, not all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at NapMed, and LinkedIn, sorry, at NapMed 1908 for our incorporation date. We have been around since 1908, and our origins are here in Chicago, Illinois. So we'll see you guys next week, featuring our next naprapath. And those of you that actually sign up, we'll pick from the raffle to see who's going to get that free treatment. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you, Dr. Rapacz.
Thank you. Bye now.